Good morning, students. Today we are going to see about Unit 4 topic, that is the role of sourcing in a supply chain. So mainly this Unit 4, it's focused on sourcing and coordination in supply chain, because when we have a better communication, better coordination, then only we will get a success in the overall supply chain management. So let's see the role of sourcing in supply chain management. So here mainly we are focusing on purchasing, sourcing, outsourcing. Will the third party increase the supply chain surplus related to performing the activity in-house? Or to what extent do risk grow upon outsourcing? So these are the things we are going to discuss. First of all, purchasing, it is also called as procurement. It is nothing but it's a process by which companies acquire raw materials, components, products, services, and other resources from suppliers to execute their operations. So definitely when we want to create some product, we need raw material, extra components, some sub products, then services, even human resources, everything is required, right? So automatically how exactly we are getting those things, that is come under this purchasing or procurement. Then sourcing is the entire set of business processes required to purchase goods and services. Definitely we need to collect good product, right? So automatically good components we need. So how exactly we are getting those good component, that is exactly termed as sourcing. Then outsourcing. Outsourcing results in the supply chain function being performed by a third party. Suppose we can't able to handle by ourselves, we can give it to third party. So that when we give our task to a third party to do, so automatically it's called as outsourcing. So in the upcoming slides, we'll see the drawbacks and what are the risks there in outsourcing and everything. Then it is important to clarify the distinction between outsourcing and offshoring between before we proceed. A firm offshores a supply chain function if it maintains ownership but moves the production facility offshore. In contrast, a firm outsources if the firm hires an outside firm to perform an operation rather than executing the operation within the firm. Okay, so there is a key difference between offsourcing and outsourcing. Okay, now when we do the outsourcing, the supply chain activity should answer the following questions. Will the third party increase the supply chain surplus related to performing the activity in-house? To what extent do risk grows upon outsourcing? So we know that supply chain surplus is nothing but it is the difference between the value of a product for the customer and the total cost of all supply chain activities involved in bringing the product to the customer. So definitely the overall manufacturing cost should be less than the actual product cost, which is sold to the customer, right? So the supply chain surplus is the total size of the pie that all supply chain participants get to share. Okay, now next slide. So now we'll see the key sourcing related processes. So from the diagram itself, we can easily understand supplier scoring and assessment, supplier selection and contract negotiation, design collaboration, procurement, sourcing, planning, and analysis. Supply sourcing, supplier scoring and assessment. So it is nothing but it is the process used to rate supplier performance. Okay, suppliers should be compared based on their impact on the supply chain surplus and total cost, because we may have lot of sources to get supply. So we need to choose wisely, right? So automatically we are scoring and we are assessing those sources, and based on that we can able to take decision. So a good supplier scoring and assessment process must identify and track performance along all dimensions that affects the total cost of using a supplier. So supplier selection uses the output from supplier scoring and assessment to identify the appropriate supplier. So based on the scoring, we can choose or identify a particular supplier and we can select that. And once we selected the supplier, definitely we need to have a contract negotiation. Maybe we can have a contract for 2 years, 3 years, depending on the company policy, we can have a contract, and it should go as a negotiation because both the parties should access the terms and conditions, right? So negotiation will happen, and because the third party also they will give some demand, right? So if it is accessible by the company, they will accept it, otherwise the contract won't get signed, isn't it? Once the contract is signed, then definitely we can collaborate and we can go for the further process, isn't it? The goal of procurement is to enable orders to be placed and delivered on schedule at the lowest possible overall cost. Okay, so that is the procurement section. Then effective sourcing processes within a firm can improve profits for the firm and total supply chain surplus in a variety of ways. So definitely it is important for the drivers of improved profits be clearly identified when making sourcing decisions. Okay, so definitely what are the sourcing decision we can consider? It means better economics of scale should be achieved in order within a firms are aggregated, more efficient procurement transaction, design collaboration can result in products that are easier to manufacture and distribute, resulting in lower overall cost. Good procurement process can facilitate coordination with the supplier as well as improve forecasting and planning. Isn't it? Appropriate supplier contracts can allow for the sharing of risk, resulting in higher profits for both the supplier and the buyer. So these are the points related to key sourcing related processes. Uh, now, next we are going to discuss about how do third parties increase the supply chain surplus. So third party increases the supply chain surplus if they either increase value for the customer or decrease the supply chain cost related to a firm performing task in-house. Okay, so we'll see what are the possible ways: capacity aggregation, inventory aggregation, transportation aggregation by transportation intermediaries, transportation aggregation by storage intermediaries, warehousing aggregation, procurement aggregation, information aggregation, receivable aggregation, relationship aggregation, and finally lower cost and higher quality. Okay, so we'll see one by one. Capacity aggregation. A third party can increase the supply chain surplus by aggregating demand across multiple firms and going production economics of scale that no single firm can on its own. That is capacity aggregation. Inventory aggregation, in the sense a third party can increase the supply chain surplus by aggregating inventories across a large number of customers. Aggregation allows them to significantly lower overall uncertainty and improve economics of scale in purchasing and transportation. Then transportation aggregation by transportation intermediaries. A third party may increase the surplus by aggregating the transportation function to a higher level than any shipper can on its own. Like UPS, FedEx, and a host of LTL carriers are example of transportation intermediaries that increase the supply chain surplus by aggregating transportation across a variety of shippers. Transportation aggregation by storage intermediaries. A third party that stores inventory can also increase the supply chain surplus by aggregating inbound and outbound transportation. On the inbound side, they are able to aggregate shipments from several manufacturers onto a single truck. This results in a lower transportation cost than could be achieved by each manufacturer independently. On the outbound side, they aggregate packages for customers at a common destination, resulting in a significantly lower transportation cost that can be achieved by each customer separately. Next, warehousing aggregation. A third party may increase the supply chain surplus by aggregating warehousing needs over several customers. The growth in surplus, which is achieved in terms of lower real estate cost as well as lower processing cost within the warehouse. Okay. Then procurement aggregation. So definitely a third party increases the supply chain surplus if it aggregates procurement for many small players and facilitate economics of scale in production and inbound transportation. Okay, it's the most effective across many small buyers. Um, Information aggregation. So definitely we can increase the surplus by aggregating information to a higher level than can be achieved by a firm performing the function in-house. All retailers aggregate information on products from many manufacturers in a single location so that they can choose wisely. Okay, so the information aggregation reduces search cost for customers. Receivables aggregations. A third party may increase the supply chain surplus if it can aggregate the receivable risk to a higher level than the firm or it has a lower collection cost than the firm. Brightstar is a distributor for Motorola. In most Latin American countries other than Brazil, cell phones in the area are sold through many small independently owned retail outlets. So collecting receivable from each retail outlet is very expensive proposition for a manufacturer. So better we can, the receivable aggregation can achieve a lot. Relationship aggregations. An intermediary can increase the supply chain surplus by decreasing the number of relationships required between multiple buyers and sellers. Without an intermediary, connecting 1,000 sellers to 1,000,000 buyers require a billion relationship. So the presence of an intermediary lowers the number of relationships required to just over 1,000,000. So definitely we need intermediary, trustable intermediary, so that we can have a good relationship aggregation, which in turn increase the supply chain surplus. And finally, lower cost and higher quality. A third party can increase the supply chain surplus if it provides lower cost or higher quality relative to the firm. If these benefits come from specialization and learning, they are likely to be sustainable over the longer term. A specialized third party that is further along the learning curve for some supply chain activity is likely to maintain an advantage over the long term. So overall, lower cost and high quality is a major concern. Okay. Now, and the next topic is risk of using a third party. Firms must evaluate the following risk when they move any function to a third party. Definitely, when we have a third party, there is a possibility of the process is broken, underestimation of the cost of coordination, reduced customer or supplier contact, loss of internal capability and growth in third party power, leakage of sensitive data and information, ineffective contracts. So these are the possible things may happen when we use the third party. So definitely we need to choose wisely when we choose the third party for the overall success of supply chain management. So these are the important core concepts behind the role of sourcing in supply chain management. Thank you for listening. Thank you.